It is 10:53. I guess in pure Texas style, we're going to be playing past midnight tonight. It looks like we're probably going to be another hour or so of rain, according to the one of the local weather guys who was on Twitter. So we're going to be here for a while. So we decided to come on here, get this restream out of the way a little early, and talk about obviously some of this Texas Mississippi State game. When the game went to a rain delay, Ivan Melendez had just hit a 3-run home run on a low fastball. He got all of it. So Texas with an 8-5 lead in the top of the ninth, still threatening with just one out. So Aaron, Mississippi State made kind of its typical eighth-inning rally. Texas responded here. Pretty impressive response by the Longhorns.
What a great baseball game, Kendall. This is so much fun to see. All these night games, every night have been awesome. But Mississippi State, once again, you're down 3 runs in the 8th, and it's just like, no big deal. Here we come. Tie ball game. Next thing you know, just like the other day, they're down 4 against Virginia in the 8th inning. They're getting no hit, and here they are. They score 6 runs. It's just incredible with the way they've rallied, but it's also incredible the way Texas responded. I mean, Texas has really found its stride out here, playing with a lot of confidence. Ivan Melendez and Zach Zubia finding their footing obviously has played a huge part in that. We wrote about it yesterday. Melendez, a couple of big swings. Zubia, the biggest swing to break that game open yesterday. And then Zubia kind of set the tone early in this game with a huge swing, and Melendez breaks the tie late with the big swing, the 3-run homer. So right now it's a great battle going, but it looks like Texas is probably going to force another game tomorrow.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the really interesting thing to me in this game, Aaron, too, is I feel like when you see a pitcher for the third time, you tend to have a little bit of an advantage. Mississippi State, this is the third time it's faced Ty Madden this year, but Ty Madden, Aaron, was awesome tonight. 6 innings, 2 runs, 4 hits allowed, 8 strikeouts. I want to say this. I think this is a 5th straight outing that he's had where he's allowed 4 hits or fewer. Obviously, big stage, season on the line. Ty Madden delivered for the Horns tonight.
Yeah, as usual. It's just, that guy every time out, it feels like all year long, really. I mean, I know it's, maybe there's been an up or down here or there, but he's been pretty darn steady. I mean, you've seen him a lot more than I have, but I've sure been impressed with what I've seen from him late. Here's a question for you, Kendall. There's probably people in the comments suggesting this game should have been, put into a delay sooner. It was too wet. Maybe that contributed to the pitch. I will tell you, I had been walking around outside, and it was actually not raining as hard yet as it looked like it was on TV, for what that's worth. That was my sense anyway. So I don't know if, I don't know how much of a factor that was, if it was a factor. Do you have a read on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, it was rainy, but I mean, I don't, Chris Lamotis didn't come out and argue that it was too wet or anything like that. So I don't have an issue with it. But yeah, as we stand, like I said, 8-5 Texas. If the Longhorns can hold on here to finish this game out, they'll have to come back tomorrow and beat Will Bednar, who was phenomenal against Texas a few days ago. And they'll also have to beat a guy named Landon Sims, who obviously Chris Lamotis, when they tied the game there in the 9th, or in the 8th, did not feel the need to bring Landon Sims back in the game, which is kind of what we both expected. We talked about this morning that we felt like unless they had a lead in the 9th, they're probably not going to Landon Sims after his velocity was down a few nights ago. So Texas is going to have to beat Will Bednar or Landon Sims tomorrow to advance, assuming they hold on. But we'll have a lot more on Texas and probably Ivan Melendez a little later tonight. But let's talk about the elephant in the room here. Obviously, for the last couple of days, Aaron and myself had kind of heard that NC State might be having a few COVID issues, and those issues all came to kind of fruition today. It's never fun in this day and age to read on Twitter or see from the NCAA that a game has been postponed because of health protocols and things like that. But that's the reality we live in these days. And so NC State, Aaron, had double-digit guys out for this game. They had Garrett Payne starting on the mound. He actually put together a really nice outing. But the biggest story here, obviously, is NC State and the fact that JT Jarrett tested positive for COVID. He's out for the rest of the College World Series. And now the question becomes, looking ahead to tomorrow and reflecting back on the day, like, how many guys will NC State have tomorrow? I mean, there's word behind the scenes that NC State may have a lot of these guys back. Like, a lot of these guys have already tested negative. They may test negative again tomorrow. They could all be potentially back. But I just feel like there's not a lot of communication on this thing from NC State's part or the NCAA, and I feel like there should be a little bit more.
Yeah, it's really pretty frustrating how everybody is just being deliberately murky throughout this whole process. We don't know the details. How many negative tests do you need in order to be cleared? How many tests have these guys had? And I mean, Kendall, we've known this was coming since earlier in the week, and everybody knew this was coming. They didn't get blindsided totally by this today. I mean, maybe, the number of players that were going to be held out, that was a surprise at noon, but like this was, this has been building. And yet there's been no transparency, with anyone, not with NC State, certainly not with the media or the public. It's just it's unfortunate. And then you get the delay. The game is delayed for an hour. We can't even come out and say COVID protocols. We got to say it's health and safety. Yeah. Well, delay for health and safety. Give me a break with the nudge, wink, wink, bull crap. I'm tired of this. Like, can we just be open and upfront? Okay, we got it. There's a COVID situation. Like, can we just call a spade for once in our lives? I'm tired of this. But all right. That said, Kendall, I'm very frustrated that we're dealing with this at all, because everybody knew the protocols. Everybody knew the protocols. Okay, even if you don't think COVID is you're not worried about the impact of COVID. You think that it's a hoax. I don't care what you think. Maybe you think that it doesn't matter if I get sick. It's not a big deal. Okay, consider this. You know the protocols. You know that if you're not vaccinated, you're going to have to be tested, and there's a chance you could get ensnared in the COVID protocols in June when it matters most and put your season at risk. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, you made a choice. Okay, Elliot Avent said, we let these kids choose for themselves. Fine. You got to live with that choice now. There are other teams where everybody on the team chose to get vaccinated because they didn't want to risk getting caught up in COVID protocols. So forget, whether or not you think it's worth it personally. How about for the good of your teammates? I mean, you guys, you wouldn't be in this position if you had made the choice to get vaccinated. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning. I was talking to somebody with one of the programs here in Omaha, and they said that obviously, one of the things that's been lost in translations. I made a tweet earlier today saying that, if you were fully vaccinated or you were vaccinated, you don't even have to test while you're here. Like, you do not have to test at all. And so, one of the things somebody mentioned was, well, if a team is fully vaccinated, that, it's not, they can't be forced to do it legally. Well, number one, there's at least one school here who literally had players, coaches, travel party, everyone vaccinated. And by the way, it was not forced upon them. They had a choice to do it. They weren't going to be left at home if they didn't get vaccinated, but they still made the decision to get vaccinated and come here with their team. And guess what? They haven't tested the whole time they've been here. So I agree with you. I think guys had a choice to make, and unfortunately, you kind of have to live with the consequences sometimes.
And hopefully NC State gets most of their guys back. And
I agree.
It still won't be a moot point because, who knows if they could have been at full strength today, maybe they would have won this game. They'd be sitting pretty heading into the final. So one way or another, it's already had a huge effect on this College World Series. But the fact is, it's something of a self-inflicted wound. Whether or not you think guys should have to get vaccinated, everyone was operating under the same rules. Everyone knew about the protocols. Everyone knew there was a risk you get tied up in protocols if you decided not to get vaccinated. Yeah,
and I would add this too. You and I have both known Elliot Avent for years, and Elliot's one of my favorites. I love the guy. But he came out today after the game saying, like, it's not really, essentially saying it's not my job to tell these guys they should get vaccinated and things like that. Like, I'm not imposing my viewpoint on those guys.
The word he used was indoctrinate. He didn't want to indoctrinate his players with which I thought was an interesting word choice.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this. Yeah, it's not his job to go tell guys like, hey, you have to do this. But it could be, I do feel like as a coach and as a leader, it is kind of your job to go, hey, listen, like, I get it if you're a little iffy with this, but here's what happens if you do it. We go to Omaha. None of us have to go to the Marriott at 2 p.m. to get tested before we play. Like, that's the fact. And like, I feel like a lot of college kids, if you kind of stress that, would be like, you know what? Actually, like, whatever. Like, yeah, go punch me in the arm. I'm ready to go. I don't want to be inconvenienced in Omaha by testing.
And beyond just the inconvenience, how about just the fact that the peace of mind? How about I don't want to put my team's season at risk because of we know about COVID protocols. Like, you may think the protocols are dumb and outdated, but they're there for everybody, and you can just make that a moot point. Anyway, so I don't want to harp on that too much.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we all kind of feel like, I mean, you and I have discussed it all week. At this point, we all kind of feel like the protocols are probably a little silly, to say the least. but that's the reality. Like they're in the COVID protocol rule book. They're going by these protocols when it comes to players and coaches. I know a lot of people say, well, there's thousands of fans and there's 25,000 people in the stands, and we're sitting here worried about the players and things like that. But I would also say there's a reason why fans are no tier and players and coaches and stuff like that are tier 1. So I mean, there's a difference there. But at any rate, it's unfortunate. I'm desperately hoping that they all, whoever can test negative and test out, does so tomorrow, because the fact of the matter is here, if they have a bunch of guys out, I'm not sure tainted is the right word, but there is a little bit of an asterisk next to Vanderbilt being in the championship series if they don't have enough, they don't have these guys tomorrow.
Well, I mean, just the bottom line is we want competition with these two teams at their best. And I will say this, today's game was pretty entertaining considering the circumstances. I mean, NC State, you got 4 of your best players out. You've got, your number 2 pitcher playing first base in the first game. He's played as a position player all year long. He didn't even, taken BP. He hasn't done any work as a position player. And he gets 3 hits against Kumar Rocker, by the way.
Yeah, how about that?
Sam Highfield we're talking about. You mentioned Garrett Payne. I mean, he goes 5 innings, 2 hits. I mean, NC State with that ragtag bunch, they out-hit Vanderbilt. You got 4 guys there who have combined 27 at-bats of the year, and your bottom 4 spots of the lineup, and they out-hit Vanderbilt, and they had their chances. They had the bases loaded, in the 7th, I think, and then they had the tying run on base each of the next 2 innings. They were right there, and you credit Vanderbilt for surviving that. But I think tomorrow will be very interesting. At the very least, we know Sam Highfield will definitely be available. He didn't pitch today. He's available. Maybe Reed Johnson will be also. Beyond that, who knows?
I'll be honest with you. We were probably a little critical of Avent a bit ago, but I'll give their staff a lot of credit for having these guys ready to play under these circumstances. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, coming into this game, it's kind of, you're thinking with this lineup with Eddie Isert and guys like that at the bottom of the lineup, you're thinking, okay, this could get ugly fast. But NC State just kind of hung in there. Devontae Brown, Aaron, made one of the best catches you'll see all year long in right field early in that game. Dalton Feeney came out of the bullpen, 4 shutout innings. I thought NC State, given the stakes and given its situation, all it kind of went through this morning in early afternoon, played about as well as he could possibly play.
Yeah, I mean they really impressed in that respect. So, we'll see what tomorrow brings. I mean, honestly, I don't know what Vanderbilt will do on the mound. Do you bring back Jack Leiter on? We can talk about that in tomorrow's stream, I guess. But
you absolutely do. I mean, he was out in the bullpen at the end of the game today, so he's ready to pitch.
Well, sure, but I mean, there's also a difference between getting the last out of the game and actually starting. I mean, what is it? 4 days rest after 124 pitches. I mean,
because we haven't seen Patrick Riley yet, right?
We have not seen Riley. My hunch is they probably will start Riley and try everything they can to avoid using Leiter unless they just plain have to. I could be wrong. Corbs did say today that it kind of depends, how he feels when he wakes up in the morning, and they'll kind of just evaluate in the morning. But that seemed like a typical kick the ball down the road answer. They probably already know what they're going to do, but they're not going to tell us. So why would they?
Yeah, Kumar Rocker, by the way, you mentioned it a bit ago. Kumar Rocker, 11 strikeouts, just 1 walk, and 6 innings and 1 run allowed. Just Kumar being Kumar in Omaha, Aaron.
Yeah, you just kind of take it for granted at this point. But he struck out 8 of the first 9 batters of the game. I mean, and then NC State adjusted and did a better job on the breaking ball and made him work. Drove that pitch count up pretty good and got him out of there after 6 innings. But it was an interesting game, just a wild day. Last thought on this, Kendall. This just the feeling of this day is something I've never experienced before. You get to the ballpark and, everyone knows there's something weird going on. You don't know if they're going to play at all. I mean, you don't know if this is the end of NC State's season. I mean, you don't know if maybe it's just in an hour or two. Everyone's just kind of sitting around in limbo. And then the lineups come out and it's just like, whoa, I mean, it was just a weird feeling all day.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So we'll see what happens here at the end of this Texas Mississippi State game again. Again, Texas leading 8-5, going to the bottom of or still the top of the ninth with 1 out. Aaron, what's kind of your, how do you feel like these, David Pierce as they come back out of this rain delay and Chris Lemonis, how do we feel like they ought to handle things pitching wise? I mean, if you're David Pierce, do you put Aaron Nixon back out there? Do you kind of turn things over to someone else to kind of close it out? It'd be interesting to see what Pierce decides here.
I guess it just depends how long they're delayed, right? Have you looked at the radar lately? I mean, do we think that they'll actually be able to finish this game tonight? I would think so. It looked like it was kind of a band that was going to pass.
Yeah, I mean the edge of the rain line is just past 680, which is the loop in West Omaha. So they ought to be able to get it over with.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see how long it takes.
Yeah, Derek Myers here. We're going to take some questions too. Derek Myers here asked about putting Landon Sims in. You know, we kind of touched on this a minute ago, but Aaron, I don't know if you disagree with me, but I kind of feel like even with the game tied, like with his velo being down a few nights ago, I like the idea of not going with him there. Because what happens if you get caught in a game where you're going 2 or 3 innings, extra innings, and you're still using him? Well, all of a sudden, if you lose, you don't even have him tomorrow.
Right. No, hey, you mentioned earlier his velocity was down last time he pitched. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you're seeing Landon Sims throwing 88, 89 mile an hour fastballs, that means he's a little bit running on fumes, because his slider is usually 85, so that's something to keep an eye on. Is he doesn't bounce back the way some guys do. And so they got to use him carefully. And certainly you don't bring him in unless you have the lead, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Daryl Trujillo asked if there's if it's like softball where they can't resume an inning after a certain time. I believe is they just can't start the game after 11 o'clock. I think as long as you started the game, you can finish whenever.
I think you're right. I'm trying to scroll through the comments to see.
We got a little cameo from college baseball legend John Manuel.
Yep, Johnny was in the house with some strong takes, as one might imagine.
as usual.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that's any other questions while we're talking here. If there's anyone watching that has a question or a discussion topic, this is a good one from Ethan Murphy, Kendall. Is there an emphasis on foreign substance on pitchers this year? This is a hot topic in Major League Baseball, and this is another one of those things that I feel like, as usual, college is it's probably inevitable that it's going to come our way, but it hasn't yet. We're behind. This typically tends to be how things go. Maybe in another 6 months or a year, all of a sudden it'll be a hot button topic in the college game. Because I'm sure people use substances, right? Like sticky substances, just like they do in the big leagues. But to this point, it has not really become any kind of a discussion topic that I've heard of. You?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you, just from watching some of the big league stuff the last few days, like I think that all that stuff's really stupid. Like I think it makes the game look comical. You have Sergio Romo like literally taking off his pants. You have Max Scherzer getting mad at Joe Girardi, and rightfully so, right? I mean, he's in the middle of a strong start, and Girardi's out there asking him to check his hat, and he stares down Girardi, and Girardi goes out there and challenges him to fight. I'm not sure I like Joe's chances on that one, but at any rate, like I just think it's all silly. I'm hoping it stays away from college baseball.
Yeah, well, certainly it's been a major headache, and I don't know how what the future of this issue is for Major League Baseball or how they're going to solve it. But you're right. I mean, I hope we don't have to deal with that headache, but I have a feeling it's inevitable, Kendall.
Yeah. Aldo asked if Texas holds on to win, are they the favorite tomorrow? I would say no. I think if you look at State with Landon Sims and Will Bednar available, I think I still like State's chances. Although, I mean, Texas will have Tristan Stevens ready to roll too. But, Texas used Tanner Witt tonight. They're using Aaron Nixon. Let's just assume Nixon goes back out. I mean, you've used both those guys tonight. So at the least, Mississippi State's gotten another look at those 2 young freshmen.
Right, yeah. So, and our buddy Shooter Hunt was in the comments a minute ago here, Kendall, asking about the pitching matchups for tomorrow, assuming Texas wins this game, which isn't a done deal because we keep seeing Mississippi State come back. But I'm going to say, assuming Texas wins this game, I mean, you got to start Bednar at that point if you're Mississippi State, right? I mean, you have to win that game.
You have to
worry about the finals later. And if you're Texas, I mean, I guess you bring back Stevens. I mean, that's been your guy, your number 2 starter all year, right? I mean, you have Kobe Kubicek too if you need him, I suppose. But I think Stevens makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, Wes asked if NC State will get news on today's COVID test. My understanding is they will be tested again in the morning for tomorrow's game. So, assuming everything comes back clear, they'll be ready to roll. So we'll see. Yeah. I mean, again, like we're trying to have answers for you, but like, I mean,
There's
we're basically going off of what sources say, and I don't trust it enough to officially report it. So.
And a lot of the sources don't even know. A lot of the people involved don't even know. The CDC is the other factor here, Kendall. I feel like a lot of this, everyone just wants to blame the NCAA for everything, but CDC guidelines have a lot to do with it. And if you're unvaccinated, isn't there a certain number of tests, or if there's a quarantine period? Like, I don't exactly know. I haven't studied up on that stuff as much as I probably should have, but it feels like that's the guidance that is being leaned upon here.
Yeah, no doubt. We got a little Colton Cowser sighting, giving a shout out to Ty Madden. They were workout partners during the COVID shutdown.
Soon to be a very rich man, Colton Cowser.
Yeah. Send
me a T-shirt.
He'll be taking care of his dad, Del Cowser, who I've gotten to know pretty well over the last few years up in Huntsville. Great family.
Yeah, no doubt.
What do we got? What else we got here? We got all sorts of questions now, Aaron.
If NC State wins, a 30 for 30 needs to be done. Seriously, this has been an insane run. I mean, really, the entire season for them. But you cap it off with this madness here in Omaha. My goodness.
It took Aaron a while to write today's story, and rightfully so. But imagine had NC State won that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it would have been an epic. It really would have been especially to have beaten Kamara Rocker with 13 guys, and the whole thing was crazy. Early.
Mario asked if the game will be resumed tonight. I think we touched on that a little bit ago. I feel pretty good about it. The last line of thunderstorms give a little update here. Yeah, I mean, it's right past 680, which is about 10 miles from here. So we're going to be here a while, but yeah, they'll finish the game tonight.
If the game ends up not resuming tonight, Wes wants to know.
9 a.m. probably.
Right. So do you think they would do? I mean, would they move the if necessary game to Sunday, or would they just finish this game tomorrow morning?
That's a great question.
I don't know.
That's a great question for Jeff Williams.
Yeah, I suspect. I mean, we've done this in the past, right? Where we've had you finish the suspended game in the morning. But they don't like to bring the same team back later in the day. We've seen that too. So
especially when you're playing a play for the national championship.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if maybe you're disadvantaging somebody by not giving them a day off before the finals. We need to ask Jeff Williams about this. We'll get back to you on that. We'll tweet it.
Yeah, Thomas Dunn brings up pretty interesting. Why has the pitch clock just now being enforced? I'll be honest with you, Aaron. I don't think I saw a pitch clock violation all year long, and I think we've seen 3 or 4 here.
I saw some. I mean, it just kind of depends where you go. I didn't see it a lot. Warnings here or there mostly. I did occasionally see an actual ball called, for an actual violation. Have we actually seen a ball called for a violation? We've just seen warnings out here.
No, I think there was a ball called in this game.
Was there? Okay. I was busy writing when I must have missed that one. But it's weird the things they suddenly decide are going to be points of emphasis. We get to this stage. Okay. I mean, I think it's kind of goofy and unnecessary. Like if you want to do something about the pace, maybe we can make replay more efficient. Just a thought.
No doubt. Here's a good question. And we'll kind of wrap it into another question. Alexander Dobbins asked about Evan Justice compared to Kevin Kopps and Landon Sims. First of all, another user asked if he's available tomorrow. I wish we knew that. We won't know till tomorrow. We don't really know. Other than JT Jarrett, we don't know what's going on with NC State. But Aaron, that's an interesting point about Evan Justice. I mean, he has been nasty out here from the left side. I mean, 95, 97, good breaking stuff. I mean, he's been phenomenal so far in Omaha.
Well, and yes, I think this is actually a fair question. And anyone who just looks at the season numbers is going to say we're crazy, because Justice, his ERA is in the 3s now. It had been in the 4s for much of the year, but he's just been a totally different guy the last 6 weeks anyway, maybe more than that. He's been utterly automatic, and you throw him out there and you need 2 or 3 innings, and he slams the door every single time, and he bounces back. I mean, if anything, he bounces back more like Kopps versus Sims, who does not bounce back as well.
Yeah.
This guy has just grown up. I mean, the command piece has really come a long way. He's always had stuff. He's always had that funk, the low slot, the herky jerk, the deception. And now he's got poise and presence in command. I sure hope he's available to pitch tomorrow. because he's earned it. He's earned a chance to compete, assuming he's cleared to go. And he's special. He's had a really good year, and I'm happy for him for the way he's improved himself.
Yeah, and how about Chris Villeman? I mean, assuming Villeman tests negative tomorrow and is able to pitch. I mean, he hasn't even pitched in Omaha yet. You know,
right.
like he could give them several innings tomorrow.
That's a great point. Who knows? We just don't know. We have no idea who's going to be available tomorrow. This is such a weird wild card situation. What else we got? Anything else in here grab your attention, Kendall?
Yeah, I mean, Ivan mentions just kind of the setup of NC State going from the hotel to the ballpark. I thought it was really interesting. I kind of pointed this out earlier. I thought it was interesting that if you look at NC State's picture from before the game, like Jose Torres is one of the guys like hanging over the dugout rail. So something absolutely got lost in translation for the entire team to actually be in the dugout warming up. And then all of a sudden, like, hey, y'all are, this guy is no longer playing.
Yeah, that was the part that confused me too, because it's not like it makes you think, all right, like did several of these guys test the way they treated it was as though some positive tests had just come in. If instead it's just like, oh, you're not cleared, we need more time. Like they would have known that, right? They would have known that you need a certain amount of negative tests, you need a certain amount of days or whatever it is. I mean, if we're just talking about tests and contact tracing or whatever, why do they let everybody go get ready like business as usual and then yank them out? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. The whole thing is just so weird. I don't get it.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll take one last question, kind of wrap this thing up. But you and I did not get a chance to talk about this on a restream, so we're going to talk about it now. What's this guy's? And we'll give him a shout out. Alex Day asked, "How do you like the fit of Jay Johnson and LSU?" I'll let you go first on that one.
Yeah, we really haven't talked about this yet, have we? This is a great question. It is a very interesting fit because, again, it's a West Coast guy. His whole life he's been a West Coast guy. And there is, I think, an adjustment period going to the SEC just from a culture standpoint. And in particular, when you're going to what I consider to be the most high-pressure job in college baseball. And Texas is in that conversation. But I think that the expectations, the demands of the fans there, I mean, they ate up Paul Mainieri. He handled it, but you saw him at the end. I mean, I think he even acknowledged that the stress of that job, he thought, had contributed to his declining health. And so, we'll see how Jay can handle that. I mean, I think from a personality standpoint, I think that's very important is you have somebody who can handle that pressure cooker. And I think Jay is an extremely charismatic and likable guy. I think he can be maybe a little sensitive too. And he probably hasn't had a chance to experience this kind of, he definitely hasn't had a chance to experience this kind of pressure cooker. But all that said, he can really, really, really teach hitting. He always has. He's got a great track record. Maybe his recruiting base is in the West, is California and Arizona, but recruiters, if you have that gene, I think that translates to different parts of the country. And so he certainly has a chance to do really good things there, but it'll be fascinating to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the two things that kind of stand out to me about Jay is when you look at his coaching style, like as a coach on the field, like I've always kind of considered him to be very laid back.
Yeah.
I mean, he certainly is not used to the pressure and the overwhelming media and things like that. But like in terms of his on the field presence, I feel like he's always kind of laid back, has a good aura about him. He's obviously a great teacher of hitting and great offensive coach. It'll be really interesting to me to see what happens with Arizona defensively and pitching wise in Baton Rouge, because obviously in the SEC West, you've got to play great defense. Obviously, that was kind of Arizona's bugaboo at times this year. So they've got to figure out the defensive side of things, and it'll be interesting to see what he does on the pitching side. He's not going to have Nate Yeskie with him at LSU. That doesn't mean that LSU is not going to have some wonderful options. Former A&M coach Rob Childers is a guy available. There's been murmurs that Jason Kelly might be a guy in the mix that Jay could take with him to Baton Rouge. And, of course, on the recruiting front, sources kind of tell me that J. Bob Thomas from Texas Tech is in the mix. And so it looks like he's going to have the ability to hire an elite staff. It'll just be interesting to see how it all kind of unfolds.
That is very interesting. I'm sure he's going to have a great staff. I mean, there's, like you said, there's some really good names out there, and Jay has shown the ability to surround himself with good people. Coach Yeski comes to mind. So yeah, it's a neat hire. I mean, hey, this guy's been to College World Series twice, in 5 years at Arizona.
Yeah.
He's a winner. And they're a fun team to watch, Arizona. Their style of play. Listen, LSU is an offensive program. They have an offensive park. It's an offensive league, and he's an offensive guy. So it might just be a really, really perfect fit when it's all said and done.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We want to thank our sponsors at Wilson for sponsoring our postseason coverage. We were over there just a couple of days ago at the Omaha Baseball Village. So obviously they're closed tonight, but if you're out here tomorrow watching the games here in Omaha, go by the Omaha Baseball Village. Check out our friends at Wilson. They've got some awesome shirts, bats, gloves. I think they have a couple of special edition bats. So go there and take a look at those guys. They've got some terrific stuff. But we're going to wrap things up. We're going to start riding on little Ivan Melendez. I might be taking my chances a little bit with Hell State still having the bat. But we're going to get started on some work here. We're going to call it a night. So we'll be back in the morning. We're not sure who we're going to be talking about tomorrow just yet, because we might have 2 games. But we'll be back tomorrow morning to make some more predictions. So long.